double-dealing character. Despite being one of my favorites, it's a game that didn't bring much new to the table if we're being honest. One of the more isolated Touhou games, in an era where stories are often linked with others, characters have ties with something or someone we already know, and have some repercussion in the world of Gensokyo that keep them relevant. A very vanilla title, so to speak. However, that blank slate kind of approach is probably what made it so attractive to me. A welcome break from the big events that were occurring in the series at the time, with a cast of characters that are for the most part just low-profile residents of Gensokyo. And from that cast came the Grassroots Yokai Network, a group we don't know much about, but we do know 3 of its members: the Mermaid Wakaseki Hime, the Werewolf Shimaizumi Kagero, and the star of today's show, the Rokurokubi Sekibanki. Allegedly being the most unsavory of the 3, she seems to do well living undercover in the human village. I mean, all she has to do to pass as a human is hide her neck, which I can only assume must be a bitch in the summer. Still, not the first character that comes to mind when thinking about problem solvers, but the Sekibanki enjoyers are out there, and so this game has a chance to exist. Kubinashi Recollection. First released on March 21st, 2021, coming to Steam later that same year on December 8th and Nintendo Switch on December 9th, with an English translation to boot. Made by Dojin Circle Q Shokutoban, we got here a puzzle platformer starring Sekibanki, and you know you're in for a good time when a fangame is made with a character's abilities in mind. Sakuya can stop time, Tenshi can influence the weather, while Sekibanki has many heads. What you think about that? It's been sitting on my library for a good while now, so I figured it was time to finally give it a shot and see what it's all about. I mean, as someone who loves not thinking, the word puzzle immediately set my expectations for what this game is, and when I saw just how much of it there is, right there I was like, oh, we're really in it now, Banky. Gonna be here for a while, aren't we? So let's take it one step at a time, because there's actually quite a bit to talk about here. Some people around Sekibanki have been losing their important memories recently. One night, she finds herself in a strange dream, where she meets with the ruler of dreams, Doremi Sweet. She speaks of a bit of an incident going on in the dream world too, where various memory fragments have been appearing and creating many small realms of their own. Unable to deal with it by herself, she asks Sekibanki for help with connecting these fragments, who agrees to it, thinking that they might be connected to the cases of amnesia going on in the real world. And so we're thrown right into it. Sekibanki can do the moving around and jumping, and we're talking a really wimpy jump here. Seriously, you gotta work on those legs, girl. But that's where having many heads comes in handy. The main use comes from bouncing on them to reach places where her regular jump just doesn't cut it, be it to climb to a higher platform, get to the other side of a gap, or grab an object floating in the air. Every stage gives you a limited amount of heads, and once one is in place, there is no way to add it back to the counter. You can, however, pick it up and carry it around the stage to another place where you might find some use. Her second ability is shooting ahead as a projectile for a short distance, usually to break certain blocks. She can do this in any of the cardinal directions except down, but once thrown, these are gone forever and cannot be reused in any way. Being an extension of herself, all of the heads are able to grab certain items such as keys and these puzzle pieces. And that's really all there is to the gameplay. Okay, I'm lying, there's a lot more. More and more gimmicks are introduced steadily as you progress through the game, and yet the solutions to the stages always require Sekibanki to use her hand. There, I said it. I said the joke. The entire game is built around the simple core mechanics. It all comes down to using your heads to jump and occasionally breaking some rocks here and there. Remember how I said every stage has a limit on how many heads you can use? Well, guess what? That was a lie too. Assuming you're playing on 9-head mode, that is. As the name suggests, it gives you 9 heads to play around with in every stage, at the cost of not getting any milestones from them. Otherwise, you can get through the whole game perfectly fine in this mode, though it obviously removes a lot of the challenge. There are 10 worlds with 5 stages each. The main objective in the stages is getting the memory fragment, this red diamond looking thing. You get a rank depending on how fast you do it, from bronze to platinum or C to S, each with a unique Sekibanki expression on it. Getting the S ranks can be tough, but I would encourage going for them if you're up to the challenge, not only because it's a very good way to extend gameplay time, but the reward for doing so is quite nice. Every stage also has a puzzle piece to collect. Can I call them jiggies? I wanna call them jiggies. Getting it is usually no problem. The challenge comes from also having to finish the stage for it to count, and doing so can get pretty tricky later on, since they're often placed far away from the end goal. With these jiggies you can unlock different costumes for Sekibanki, each one with its own fun flavor text. I liked trying out different ones for every world as I got them. Other costumes can also be unlocked by getting a certain number of achievements. While these are all very simple things, I think they really add a lot to the charm of the game, and I seriously love how this game looks. There was a lot of care put into the sprite work and level design, making it so there's never a dull moment when trekking through the stages. All the little details, like how every head gets a different expression, and I somehow didn't even notice this until after clearing the game, but when jumping on them she just leaves a fucking hole in there. That doesn't look good. You doing alright there? The scenes from the memories are lovely too. Once you beat a world you get to see a memory, a short cutscene relevant to the character it belongs to. You can usually tell who's gonna be by the aesthetic of the world or the place it's set in. They make up the bulk of the writing in this game and they go for this cozy, heartwarming vibe, while also being pretty fun, involving various characters from all throughout the series. Later in the game there's more story to follow, which I initially thought came a bit out of nowhere. I mean, you already have enough incentive to keep playing with the memories. But after getting to the end and considering Banky's character here, I found it to be a great asset to the game and ended up really enjoying what it brings. But let's go back to the game, because for me, here's where my OCD kicked in. There is no way I can sleep at night knowing there's this red square sticking out like a sore thumb. I gotta go clear that bitch. And man, these are some very strict times. Getting that S can often amount to very small optimizations in your movement, especially in the shorter stages. But something you'll notice right away if you decide to go for them is that placing a head on the ground and then jumping on it takes way too much time. That's not gonna cut it, it's too slow. That's when you realize you can jump on a head right as you throw it, which is not only faster but results in a slightly higher jump, letting you skip a few moves entirely in some stages. It takes a little practice to get it down, but once that muscle memory got to work, it's pretty much the only way I use them throughout the game. Aside from needing it to get a good chunk of the S times, it just generally makes the game more fun to play. You don't have to stop for a second to jump, you just go. It's also required to get a bunch of jiggies, another reason why I think it's a good tool to have at hand. By the way, I initially thought you needed those to get some S ranks, but no, it's completely separate, thank God. You can do one run to get the jiggy and then 50 others to get a good time, don't worry. So now the way I approach every stage was, how do I get the memory fragment, how do I get there with the jiggy, and how do I do it fast as shit. That's a gameplay loop that works for me, and it never got tiring throughout most of the game. Aside from the occasional sour spot here and there, starting in World 7 some of the stages began taking a really long time to finish. Seriously, I would spend up to 40 minutes in some of them, sometimes just trying to get a normal clear with nothing fancy. Tiring, but never boring. As I mentioned earlier, every world throws some new gimmick into the mix to keep it from getting stale. Starting simple with your keys and your switches, and later you have like cannons, spike platforms, ice blocks. Don't get me started on the ice blocks, this is definitely my least favorite one. I'm bad at imagining how these are gonna go, I can't do it, man. And there's a lot of different gimmicks in this game, each world introducing one or two of them, with most eventually getting recycled in later stages. Of course, most of the challenge doesn't come from these being used in isolation, rather it's when they appear together that things get a little bit dicey. And yet I don't remember many times where I felt overwhelmed by this. Well, aside from the first 10 seconds when you first enter a stage, where you're looking around wondering, alright, what the fuck's going on here? All the different mechanics are very simple to understand and learn. Usually they appear prominently in the world they're introducing, and then sprinkled about in later stages depending on their complexity. But there are a few very specialized ones, like the beat blocks that are tied to the music, and Banky can get stuck in them, which is pretty funny. Oh, but speaking of music, this game has some great songs in it, and I love every single one of them. They are a great fit for all the worlds, and each brings along its own mood, going from relaxed, very ambient pieces to energetic tracks for the more upbeat worlds. You even get two different variations of these in each world, one for the first 3 stages and an adapted version for the last 2, signaling that you're getting close to the end. For a second I thought it was every stage progressively adding more instruments a la Yoshi's Island, but no, that's not the case. And I think I prefer it this way really. Gives the later levels more of a unique identity. There were a few stages that were a bit troublesome, but nothing really frustrating. For the most part anyways. I'm not gonna talk about the SDM, I refuse. That's a memory I'm not recollecting. Definitely the lowest point of this game for me. That and the classic, I'm right there, I just need one more head, come on.
So no head?
Only in a few cases when trying to go for one of the additional objectives did I find myself completely stumped. Particularly in World 4. There is one stage where I could not even get close to anything better than a seed time. And I started thinking, there's gotta be a faster route, right? What am I not seeing here? Alright, so I can jump, I can bounce on a head to jump higher, I can throw a head and bounce on it in midair to go someplace even higher. What if I could bounce on a head and somehow grab it, so I can carry it to where I'm going? Yeah, you can do that. It feels amazing to pull off, but its usefulness is balanced by the impeccable timing you need to pick it up right as you make the jump. It's very finicky, and while it does in fact completely break some stages if you choose to abuse it, there are a few of the additional objectives that I couldn't find a way to complete without doing this. Though this one I'm pretty sure is not needed to beat the game normally. Now that I think about it, I have a hard time deciding if the techniques I talked about are exploits or intended by the developer. In the last 2 worlds there's also these portals that, well, teleport you between each other, and you come out of them jumping. That's all well and good, but turns out you can pick them up as you come out. It's not even that hard to do compared to the other jumps. Actually, portals can just be really glitchy all around. These jumps are definitely required for full completion. I don't see a way to do it without them, but the game never tells you anything as far as I know. You're kinda expected to figure it out, and in a way I kinda like that approach. It's not like they're that far-fetched, and hey, in some stages they allow for different solutions depending on how you approach them. It adds another layer of depth and complexity to the game. But again, they kinda sit in this line between being a Nintendo mechanic and just complete jank. I can remember a few times where I was way ahead of the time required for an S. I guess it's more of an oversight in the design of those particular stages. Speaking of, I really wish there was a way in-game to know what pace you're on. I looked up the times needed for each rank just to have that reference, otherwise you have no idea what you're gonna get until you finish the stage or how much time you need to save for the next one. Not that big a deal, but you know, quality of life. That pretty much covers all I wanna say about the gameplay. Outside of the stages you have this hub connecting all the worlds together, assuming you don't wanna use the map in the menu to travel instantly between them. Part of me wishes there was some more to see here, like having to do some platforming here and there to find some secrets or something. There are secrets to find after beating the game, but the way you get there is much more straightforward. I mean, it is called a secret room. You can input certain passwords like the names of the characters and get a little something, though these pieces are not translated so no idea what it says. I'm assuming it's some commentary by the developer. And then if you put in Rumia you get this glitchy mess. What is going on? Some passwords lead to secret stages too. They're pretty wacky compared to the rest of the game and even have their own unique music. You don't get anything for beating these, they're just here for fun. And you know what, I like that. It's nice to find secrets just for the sake of it sometimes. Just wish there was a way to figure this out in game though. The only hint you get is a text file in the game's folder. There's a Jerry attack. Oh, jelly. Alright. Banky likes jelly. Oh, what deep lore is this game going for? Doremi herself gives you various tips about different mechanics of the game. Always made a note to come here between worlds and just chill out for a minute. It's a much needed break from all the puzzle solving you're constantly doing, and hey, the dialogue is pretty fun to read. In the pause menu you can revisit all the memories you've collected so far. And by the way, make a note to come back here after beating the game, just trust me on that one. You can also see the intro cards for the characters. Doesn't really provide much info on them, but you can switch between their different portraits, so that's neat. Gotta say though, for a puzzle game, there's a noticeable lack of a level editor. I'm not particularly the target audience for that kind of stuff, but I'm sure some people will get a kick out of it, especially with all the things you have to play around here. It's kind of a missed opportunity. But for what it brings, it's a fantastic Fangame. One of the best and most polished I ever played. I barely have anything negative to say about this one, other than yeah, it is a puzzle game, it has its moments where it goes a bit overboard and makes you wanna slam your head against the wall, either because the solution is really out there or the path needed for it is so precise that it barely allows for any mistakes. Or both. But once I really got into it, I found myself having a hard time putting it down. Honestly, this could be its own standalone game and it'd still be a pretty solid product. But the light-hearted story and all the memories are also great pieces of writing paired with very charming art of the characters, and a good incentive to keep going through the game for fans of the series. And this was all done by a single person, believe it or not. Yeah, it was a one-man circle all along. This kind of endeavor will never be anything short of amazing to me, and Paradot here managed to create something truly outstanding. They have done other small minigames, but this is the first full game they developed. I enjoyed every second of it while going for full completion, which I still consider to be a core aspect of this game. That's why I made so much emphasis on that. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to experience it however you like, and I think no matter what you choose, there's gonna be something special to find here. Anyways, that's gonna be all for this one. Sorry for the delay here, there was no particular reason, I just got a bit slow with this one. Don't know why I'm saying this, it's not like I have a set schedule or anything, but you know. As always, thank you all so much for watching, thanks for putting up with my excellent English, and see you next stream.